Top HMO investors don't succeed by chance. They build 6 essential pillars that eliminate the guesswork, speed up the decision making, and simplify complex problems into clear, actionable steps. Master all 6, and it's totally unreasonable that you won't succeed. Skip even one, and it could cost you thousands of pounds or years of mistakes. But what makes a HMO successful? What 6 things do we have to have mastery over to increase the likelihood of a successful project? How can we learn them? And is there a shortcut that I can use to get what I need so that I can build these pillars faster? In this video, I'm going to break down 6 key knowledge pillars that every successful investor must build along their journey if they want success. We've used all of these for our own projects, and the stronger we build them, the better they seem to get. And at the end, I'm going to give you 4 full case studies of the award-nominated HMO investments that you saw on screen just a moment ago from our own portfolio, so you can see this in action for yourself. What we paid, the build costs, return on investment, refinance value. You can see everything that we did and how it works with real-world investments right here in Kent. My name's Stuart French, and alongside my business partner Greg Railton, our company Pineapple Group has been nominated 4 times at the Property Investor Awards in super competitive HMO categories with the properties we showed you earlier. We've built our own portfolio of HMOs in Kent and own an investment company and HMO specialist lettings agency, so we can help investors and landlords start and scale their own portfolios and enjoy being a landlord again. Or as we call it, HMO investing by investors for investors. And if you've driven around Kent, you may have seen our orange signs. We've had success in our own journey, and in this video, I want to break down the pillars of that and show you where to focus your energy, break down a big concept of HMO investing into much smaller pieces, and start to give you the actionable steps that you can take to start to scale your own portfolio too. So let's get into it. In short, there's 6 pillars or skills to master that together make up the ideal or perfect HMO investor. These pillars break down into even smaller chunks as well, and eventually we get to an actionable step or set of steps that you can take on a daily basis to build that skill. Some of these you'll know, but all of them have multiple parts, which is something I see investors missing, which holds them back as they don't have a complete picture of exactly what to do to build each skill. So don't skip through the video, as the devil is in the details, and I'll try and be as concise as I can and link out to some more videos and resources that break things down further if it's a big topic. Now, before I start, let's clarify something big. It's not the property that's successful or unsuccessful, it's you or me. It's the investor that's successful or not. The property itself is what it is, and it's the skills that you bring to the table, from sourcing all the way through the build and ultimately the refinance, that make an investor successful or not. So this is about mapping out the key elements of what you as an investor need to master, so that when you're in the trenches building out your portfolio, you don't end up making the same mistakes that I did and missing out on opportunities and making mistakes that carry a real cost that could have been avoided. So pillar 1 that a HMO investor must master is identifying suitable properties for HMOs. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, well, that's obvious, this is something I see investors get wrong all of the time. And there's a strong reason for it. This pillar breaks down further into 4 separate elements that a HMO must have if it's going to have a chance of delivering what you want. It's not just about the size of the property and the location. And many investors I speak to in Kent find out way too late that they're missing at least one of these core elements that they didn't know about until after they bought. So how do you quickly identify a property with potential and avoid the ones that aren't right for large HMOs? I use a framework called SIFT, and it's the first step to deciding which properties we'll even consider looking at further. Every property must satisfy all of these elements. It stands for size, internals, frontage, town planning. Each of these elements have their own criteria which form an actionable step or checklist, and I've got another video where I'll break these down fully for large HMOs and I'll link it at the end. But The point is here, spotting good opportunities can be broken down into a checklist that works, which give you actionable steps to take and criteria to hit so you can avoid the properties that look like a good deal but aren't because they're planning risk, for example. Being able to spot them quickly and with a degree of reliability without having big holes in your process that could bite you later is the first pillar to master. So make sure you check out that video next. Pillar 2 is running the numbers accurately. Investors call this deal stacking, and it's a bread and butter skill of a HMO investor that you can stack a deal to a high accuracy in a few minutes, not a few days. Now, having the right tools is key here, but I'm not just talking about spreadsheets. In reality, I mean access to good salary data, tools to help you assess demand and room rates, brokers that can give you accurate rates for bridging or mortgage products, and of course, a robust way to value your HMO with high confidence and accuracy before you even buy the property, so that you can recycle your money and build a pipeline which can save you years. Again, there's a framework inside this, and I'll teach it to you in a later video as we go, but for now, we're just identifying the pillars. So being able to accurately run the numbers on a new opportunity and get a high level of certainty will give you a superpower when it comes to making offers, because you can act with confidence while others hesitate. Now, this next one is probably the most underutilized skill in HMO investing and the pillar that you can build the quickest to gain an advantage. So pillar 3 is viewings and offers. I'm sure you've done viewings before and you've made offers on property, but is there a process you're following at the viewing? How do you develop an expert eye and get the maximum leverage at a viewing? Knowing exactly what to do, what to take note of, what to measure, how to extract the information that you need in order to make a decision on site at the viewing, and how to make a compelling offer is a vital skill. So if you can go into a viewing with the mindset that if you can just check these boxes, it's a deal with high levels of certainty, you're in a much better position to make strong offers than a buyer that needs to go home and think about it and get all distracted for a week. But as with all things, it's easy to underestimate how important this one is, and so it's easy to ignore. But trust me, if you can turn a viewing into a confirmation viewing and then be in a position to take action the first, you're ahead. And the more times that you can be ahead, the more chances you have to get the best buys. Get good at this one, and you can confirm and secure deals more easily, especially if it's off market, which is super valuable. To build this pillar, you'll first need to have a vision of what you want to achieve. And when you're at the property, you're there to confirm if it's possible or likely to have problems later down the line. I have another video in this series about exactly what to take with you, what to measure and why it's important, as well as a way to make compelling offers. So make sure you watch that one too. And having a vision, particularly with large HMO, means knowing what's possible or likely to be possible, which leads us to the next pillar we all must build in order to master HMO in 2025. Pillar 4 is town planning, and mastering this one isn't just knowing what you can and can't build, or rules about Article 4 or compliance generally. That's the easy bit, the rules of the game. It's more about balancing risk. When you approach any material changes or use class changes to a property, you're balancing two critical things: probability, how likely something is to happen, and impact, how big of an impact or a consequence it will have if it does happen. So here's what I mean. Imagine that you want to build an extension to your property to turn it into a HMO, and your entire project only makes sense if the council said yes to the extension. The impact of the decision has huge consequences, and it could kill your deal. And if the council have a history of rejecting extensions in that particular area or that property style, the probability that it be rejected is high. So it's a high risk. But what if the extension is just a bonus? If your approval comes, great, but if it doesn't, your project still works. Now, even if approval is unlikely, your overall risk is smaller because your project isn't fully dependent on it. And the way to think about it that served me best is balancing probability and impact. Something might have big impact but is super unlikely to happen, which means you'll see opportunity while others hesitate. The point with town planning is that there's lots of hidden risks. Some areas might send things to committee more, some might impose a condition or remove permitted development rights. So it's a balancing act to navigate it rather than a black and white approach. We'll dive deeper into town planning strategies in future videos, but let's just keep moving for now. Pillar 5 is building work. Now, this is a huge topic, but again, it just breaks down into a few different chunks. Then when we can tackle each one of these individually and build our skills in each chunk, we get better rather than seeing it as one huge mountain that's too big to climb. Building work breaks down into 5 categories: quality, price, compliance, speed, and management. Unless you are the builder or you directly employ your own build team or contractors, this again is a skill to learn as an investor. The ideal situation is that you hand the keys to the build team that does quality work on time, that's built to regulations, and they just call you up in a couple of months when it's complete. That's the ideal, but it definitely isn't common. The flip side is that you have a build team that does average quality work, runs over time, runs over budget, isn't built to plans, and doesn't get signed off as there's issues with what they've installed or how they've built it. And it took all of your time and energy with site meetings and calls to deliver the project. Which one of these investors would you want to be? Knowing what needs to happen is ultimately your role as the owner and investor, and the buck stops with you. So as we go, we'll piece all of this together with you too. But in a nutshell, there's systems and processes that we can use for each of these subtopics in order to increase the likelihood of a successful project, rather than just abdicating our responsibility to someone else, in this case the builder, that you may or may not have worked with before. And pillar 6 is arguably the most important skill to master, or pillar to build, as it has the highest leverage, and the difference between getting it right and getting it wrong can be tens or even hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's refinancing. This one is super important and breaks down into 2 vital skills. The first one, everyone gets instinctively: how to get to the end value before you start a project, and what lender can I use. And if you just thought, yes, but my whole of market broker does that all for me, you'll need the second part of this. Refinancing and revaluation isn't just a calculation on a spreadsheet. It's sanity checked by the lenders, it's underwritten, it has human valuers that need to be able to make a case and evidence it to the lender that have their own insurance and their own reputation to worry about too. It's lenders' preferences and what they deem as a risk, and brokers that work with lenders every single day of their career to understand exactly what the lender likes and doesn't like, why, and then communicate it to the investor ahead of time so that they can have the clearest pathway through. Refinancing is so much more than just what lender and what rate. It comes down to how much experience you have, which valuer you use, and what their process is, what products your broker can offer you from what lender, and what their small print criteria is. Knowing that there's a deeper process for refinancing with its own set of steps and a few steps underneath them, with all the little decisions that make a huge impact, is super important. And as we go, we'll break down these in more detail. The point of this video is to start to break down something big, like becoming a successful HMO investor, into much smaller chunks. And as we go, show you that inside those chunks are even smaller chunks, and later on, steps that will help you build each skill. Now, mastering all 6 of these will make it completely unreasonable for you to fail in your pursuit of being a successful investor. The more quickly you can acquire these 6 skills, the faster you can move. Now, if you've made it this far, here's a bonus to start wrapping this up for you inside your mind. We've likely all heard of BRR, or buy, refurbish, refinance. But for me, it doesn't really demonstrate anything really. It's too vague. How do you buy? What do you buy? How do you build? And how do I refinance and get what I want? Well, what I'm showing you here with these 6 pillars is the first level down from BRR. So we can start to break down this wider BRR concept into something that's actionable. You see, 1, 2, and 3 is buy, 4 and 5 is refurbish, and of course 6 is refinance. one big ugly concept that doesn't give us anything actionable into 6 pillars that you can master. And in the next video, which I'll link to now, I'm breaking down the first pillar, the exact 4-step process that we use to quickly pick out the best large HMOs in Kent before anyone else does. So if you're an investor or a landlord in Kent and want access to those 4 award-nominated case studies from the properties I showed you earlier, so that you can see all of these pillars in action for yourself, there's a link to a page where you can grab them in the show notes below. Just enter your details and we'll email all of those packs out to you right away. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.